This week, our Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, was interviewed by Harry Cole of The Sun newspaper.
I want to talk about your reset with Europe.
Yes.
From what we've seen out of Brussels in recent days, it's going to be an eye-watering price they're going to extract for you to reopen negotiations and reset trade terms. Are you about to betray Brexit?
No.
On the other side of the pond, though, Donald Trump arriving in about 34 days' time, I think
Yeah.
it is now. He's not going to be, you say you want to get more trade deals around the world. What about the big one? Is it a trade deal with the United States of interest to Prime Minister Keir Starmer in his first term?
Yes.
Yes?
And Harry asked Keir Starmer about his plans for a Brexit reset. And it's fascinating in that those on the right of the political spectrum who were behind Brexit are terrified that Keir Starmer is going to betray the Brexit vote. And those of us who were Remainers and on the left side mostly tend to fear the America trade deal. For agriculture in particular, and food standards and food security, the America trade deal is cataclysmic. And it's true that Patrick Minford, the economist for Brexit, outlined how bad it is, because in a parliamentary committee many years ago, he explained that Brexit would mean running down manufacturing here. I'm sure you've seen that clip. And to ensure this America trade deal, America first, because they want to make Britain a services-only country. And that is already happening. Services are fine since Brexit. They're actually doing well, and it's goods trade that's really suffering. However, if we decide to go with the America trade deal, if we were geographically next to America, I could understand it in some ways, but we're not anywhere near America. And America really is very interested in America. It's not really interested in having a 51st state on the other side of the Atlantic, I don't think. And it makes absolutely no sense. We know that geographically we are attached, almost just a little strip of sea, to Europe, and we are European, and we can't move our geographic position to America or Asia or anywhere else. However, in the week that we joined CPTPP, we have this interview, the most bizarre interview, with Harry Cole of The Sun, asking about the Brexit reset and what it means, Keir Starmer confirming his Brexit red lines, which mean that there can't really be a reset because you can't get a veterinary agreement because there's so many bad, low standard produce flowing in here, including really bad illegal foods, that there's no way we can be trusted to have a veterinary agreement because we can't actually facilitate any proper mechanism to check the goods coming in here, which means that we really are kind of like an infected island, and it's getting worse all of the time. So the reset to me looks fake. It's not real. It's just noise. It's giving people a feeling that we're going to be doing a Brexit reset, which is making the Brexiteers feel insecure about Brexit. And then they ask about the America trade deal, and Keir Starmer, clear as day, says he wants to do a trade deal with Trump. Now, we went through this with Boris Johnson 4 years ago, and the country went mad about the thought of chlorinated chicken and hormone-fed beef. And this week on LBC, I spoke to Matthew Wright about the sort of message that's coming out that America might only send us good stuff. Now, there is no way that America's going to think, oh, poor Great Britain, we'll just send them all of our quality produce and we won't send them anything else. That just doesn't work. We are going to end up with everything, but it's going to be most of the cheaper, lower standard foods that come in here, which will decimate our public health and our farms and our food security. And it's a disaster.
American trade deal, you'd be crazy to think that only high quality stuff would come in here. We have got illegal food pouring into this country because we cannot manage our borders. Absolutely impossible. In fact, getting the veterinary agreement that Keir Starmer promised in his manifesto is nigh on impossible unless he agrees to drop his red lines, because we cannot manage our borders and what is coming in here. Donald Trump will not sort of say, oh yes, Great Britain, for you, you can only have our best stuff. No chance. We will have the whole caboodle, and he'll want our NHS as well. The American trade deal is a disaster.
John Metrick's view, maybe naive, I don't know, that it could be a new market for UK farmers. You could be selling your high quality beef to the US.
I just explained that. If we wanted to export our food, we need to have a government that actually puts money into that facility. And they're removing money from the marketing for exporting food because they want to basically see farming shrink in this country. And that is why we've also got this inheritance tax shock, which is going to see many, many farms disappear unless we get them to change it. And it's about people's food, you know, because you've been used to eating. You care about the environment, Matthew. Our food, our livestock is some of the most sustainable in the world because we farm relatively the same as we have for thousands of years. Apart from, since Brexit, there have been over 200 factory farms opened here. So it's not just what is imported here, it's also the American methods of coming here. So the American trade deal is a disaster. You only have to look at the health figures in America and what that food does. I've got lots of American followers who are nearly crying at the thought of their food coming here because they live here, and they said that they are distressed at the thought of American food coming here.
But what I'm hearing from Keir Starmer is two things. He's facing both ways, like Theresa May did, and in many ways what Boris Johnson did to some point as well, and when he tried to get the America trade deal, and Liz Truss, when she was Foreign Secretary. And we're hearing the same thing. He's facing both ways. Which way is he going to turn? I actually believe he's trying to be seen to be delivering this America trade deal. As to whether that actually happens or not, the Brexiteers, Geoffrey Cox, was on the Choppers podcast on GB News, and he's absolutely paranoid that Brexit is going to be betrayed. He doesn't mind the youth mobility, but he's terrified of the loss of sovereignty by having the European Court of Justice oversight.
Are you worried that the Brexit that you fought so hard to do with Boris Johnson is under threat?
Yes, I've always been worried about it once this government was elected, and indeed I've been saying so for a very long time, that the instinct of Keir Starmer will be to reverse Brexit, but it won't be done openly. It'll be done by stealth. It'll be done gradually. It will be one cumulative piece assembled with another, and bit by bit the tapestry will start to assemble in the direction that he has always believed. I mean, I was in the government when the Prime Minister was negotiating on behalf of Jeremy Corbyn, for heaven's sake, with the Conservative government to see if we could find a way of bringing it in. And
that's Theresa May, of course.
Yes, and fulfilling the decision of the British people of 2016. And I recall vividly then just what it became clear was the objective, which is to reverse Brexit. It was an aim for a second referendum. We were on the
And that's where we're going with this government, you think?
Well, I don't think he'll go...
They say not, of course.
I don't think he'll go... I don't think he's as brave as that, frankly. I think what it'll be done is stealthily. And I'm not necessarily saying that some plan and scheme for under 30s is a bad thing. I think that might be fine. Where I think is the red line is the jurisdiction of the European Court of Justice.
Yeah.
I think that would be...
That's a sovereignty issue, isn't it?
That would be a red line.
That goes to the heart of sovereignty.
I think it would go directly against the decision the British people took. I think I'd be surprised if he did it, because it would require moral and political courage.
That apparently betrays the 2016 voters, many of whom, millions of whom, are now dead, and millions of new voters that have come in who are pro-European are being totally and utterly ignored. But this situation is crazy. But as I've said, in the week that we signed CPT, or we've actually acceded to the CPTPP, Daniel Hannan, writing in Conservative Post, said, "Hallelujah, this is a great success, and the best thing about it, as again, if you've watched my channel, you know that I've said this, it means that we'll be able to potentially get a deal with America through CPTPP. China has applied to join CPTPP, as has Taiwan, has Indonesia. There is a whole host of countries that have signed to join this new trade bloc, which is a complete loss of control, because corporations can sue national governments if they put in any legislation which impedes their profits. Now, that to me is a total loss of control. So if a company makes crisps which are poisonous, then if the government legislates to say we're not going to market these crisps unless they've got a health warning on them to say these are poisonous and they might kill you, and that impedes their profits, it means that the company that makes those crisps can sue the government for loss of profit because of the health warning on those crisps. Why would we ever want to go into that situation? This is not a way to govern the world or a country. It is a complete and utter loss of control. It means that we end up in some sort of world dominated by businesses making all of the decisions, and we know that these big corporations are motivated by profits. It's bad enough having this situation with our rivers. We have no concern for the environment or for the wildlife or for public health, because the water companies only care about putting up bills, saving costs, and getting their bonuses for their staff. And it's an absolute travesty for the world that we would end up being run with everything from that type of model. Is capitalism gone completely and utterly bonkers? The European Union model was always controlled capitalism. There is no such thing as a perfect system. But from my perspective, the EU is as good as it gets. But thanks to Brexit, is a lot of pressure on the European Union, and with a rise of the right wing across the world, populism, and it's quite scary to think that we could end up in a world run by corporations. What will happen? Well, as you've seen with the murder of the United Healthcare guy, eventually there will be a revolution, because the people will rise up against feeling oppressed. And time again, history shows us this. Why do we have to go through all of this pain to end up in such a chaotic situation? I really think that we're better off to cut our losses, say Brexit is a disaster, and look to get a reset without those ridiculous red lines, a reset which would ensure that we protect our food security and food supply, that we're united against Vladimir Putin. Donald Trump is likely to cause chaos with NATO, and that means that the European countries need to start putting much more money into defence and having a plan. But every month there seems to be dithering and delaying, particularly because successive British governments are pandering to the right-wing press.
Prime Minister, we're in Estonia. You're here to talk about a lot about defence. We're going to do that in a moment. But before, I want to talk about your reset with Europe.
Yes.
From what we've seen out of Brussels in recent days, it's going to be an eye-watering price they're going to extract for you to reopen negotiations and reset trade terms. Are you about to betray Brexit?
No, we've been really clear from the get-go that this isn't about re-entry to the EU. It's not about going back to the old rules of the single market, the customs union, freedom of movement, etc. So I've been very clear about that. But within that, yes, we do want to reset. I want to make sure that we get a better deal for the British people, for your readers, so that they feel better off, they've got a better public services. And I think we can do that with a reset. We'll have a summit in the coming months of 2025. So it's not a reversal. I've been really clear about that. Whichever way people voted in 2016, we're not going back in.
The Commission document that was leaked over the weekend, that was their negotiating terms, says that even to begin talks, even to get to that summit, you've got to put free movement for the under-30s, students being able to travel across Europe, come to the UK, on the table, or they're not even going to talk.
I've been clear from the get-go that freedom of movement is
for the under-30s,
a red line for us, and no plans in relation to free movement on any level. But look, we're entering into discussions. There will be a summit in the early part of 2025. We do intend to get a better deal for your readers so they feel better off, but we're not going to reverse. I'm not interested. We've been through a referendum in 2016. We know the outcome of that. We respect the outcome of that. Not going back into the EU. But if you're asking me, can we not get a better deal than the one we've got, I don't accept that.
What are you willing to put on the table for that? For example, if you don't, about veterinary checks and agriculture checks, critics, not even particularly partial critics, people are going to say that's going to come at a price. People that watch the EU closely say they're going to want something for that, and that's going to be ECJ oversight. It's going to be dynamic alignment. Can you countenance those things? And what was the point of leaving if you can?
Well, look, this is going to be a process. We're only at the beginning of that process, and I do want a better deal for our country and for your readers. But we do have clear red lines. We had them in our manifesto.
Yeah.
I've been really clear in our discussions about that. We're not going to do a running commentary along the way, but I did think it was important at the outset to set out our red lines about not going back in, and in relation to the single market, customs union, freedom of movement, which we know that was rejected in the referendum, and we're not reversing that.
On dynamic alignment, which would require us to shadow and mirror EU rules, people are saying that's the mistake that Theresa made. The deal wasn't palatable to the British public or to Parliament. And also, doesn't it not jeopardise the trade deals that we've done around the world, with Australia, with Japan? Are you not concerned that tying yourself closer to the EU is going to basically defeat the point of leaving?
Well, we're getting ahead of ourselves in terms of what if any better deal might have within it. But look, I'm aware and alive to the fact that we got trade deals around the world, and of course we want to make the most of those, and absolutely make sure that we not just keep the existing trade deals we've got, but of course get additional trade deals on top of that as well. So we've got to get the balance right here, but we do need to ensure that we're able to grow our economy, that people feel better off, and they will. I mean, anybody trading with Europe will probably say, look, we need just to be able to trade more easily. There are wider issues of security and defence where I think it's common knowledge that we can have a better.
Stuff on the table to get that security deal.
We've got to work with our partners in Europe on things like stopping the vile trade of people smuggling. Those boats coming across our channel are coming from France. We've got to work with our partners to stamp that out, and that is a good thing for our country.
On the other side of the pond, though, Donald Trump arriving in about 34 days' time, I think it is now. He's not going to be. You say you want to get more trade deals around the world. What about the big one? Is it a trade deal with the United States of interest to Prime Minister Keir Starmer in his first term?
Yes.
Yes?
Of course
so
it
you're
is.
going to reopen trade talks with the United States?
Yes, we want to have talks with the US about that. Of course we do.
Is that secondary to your EU reset?
I don't think it's an either or.
It kind of is, though, isn't it?
No, I mean, this is put to me a number of times, but
mainly by me. Yeah.
Churchill didn't say it's either US or Europe. He said
if you're dynamically
same
aligning
same with Attlee, and yeah, we've got to get the balance
If
right.
if you're going closer to the EU, what's the point? What's the interest of the United States to do a trade deal?
Well, look, we're early stage of any negotiations, but of course I want to ensure that we've got good trading arrangements with the US and a deal with the US.
So trade talks under Keir Starmer with Donald Trump.
Yes, we will want to have those
Heard it here
talks.
first. Excellent. Look, let's talk about back home. You've been PM for 5 months. Poll out this week has you the most unpopular Prime Minister ever. Let's ignore Liz Truss because she didn't get to 5 months, but at this 5-month landmark, you are apparently the most unpopular Prime Minister in modern times. What happened? What went wrong?
We had a very big poll on the 4th of July.
I know, but then
and we
ever since then it's been like that.
And we got a big majority, and that majority was for change, which stabilise our economy, take a mature approach to our economy, which was very badly damaged. We've discovered a £22 billion black hole. Our prisons were full. Net migration is through the roof. We've got to fix that, pick up and deal with the mess. But what I've done is I've set out in my plan for change how I want people to be better off, your readers to be better off.
Our readers are annoyed. Our letters bag is full of people that are very annoyed. They're annoyed about national insurance. They're annoyed about the farming. These are all things you said you weren't going to do before the election. Winter fuel payments. That wasn't mentioned on the in the manifesto, was it? So can you understand why people are disappointed?
I want some readers to be better off.
Yeah.